Well, good afternoon, Senate District 16. I hope that wherever you're at, that you're finding it to be a fair day. I understand that it is raining in southwest Minnesota and that the winds are supposed to come up, so I hope everybody is safe and sound throughout the day and the evening. Today I wanted to talk a little about the ditch mowing moratorium bill back about 3 years ago. Through the rulemaking process, the Department of Transportation was, I believe, encouraged by the DNR in order to change some of the rules when it comes to ditch mowing, and so they come up with a considerable lengthy rule in how the farmers that are next to the land by the right-of-way of state highways could harvest and mow the ditch areas. We found that was a pretty clumsy, a pretty tough thing to follow because of the way it was laid out and stuff. First of all, there was a lot of the tractors that farmers have that they use to mow ditches that would not qualify anymore because they didn't have the proper roll cages on them and the proper lighting and this and that. Also, the operator of the tractor would have to wear the hard-toed shoes, and they would have to have all the safety equipment, apparel that you would need if you were a highway workman working on the side of the road or on potholes and things like that. So that was getting a little far out there, and then there was a lot of other things that were coming with it, along with proof of insurance, which is, most farmers do have insurance, so I can understand where that was coming from. But also you had to buy a permit, and one of the issues with the permitting process was that if somebody put in a permit and you didn't put one in by a certain point in time, somebody else could put in a permit and take the road hay off of the easement that was next to your land. Now, I understand the state highway owns most of those easements, but most of those easements, in fact all those easements, at one point or another were bought from the adjoining landowner in order to put the highways there. So it's always been a courtesy the adjoining landowner would have an opportunity to harvest that hay. And harvesting that hay, a lot of times that's done by hobby farmers. Some of these folks have some sheep or some cattle or some horses, and they use that hay for that. And that's really been beneficial to everybody in the system because, first of all, the farmers can use that hay and put it to good use, but second of all, it stops the need for the state highway department to be out there mowing road ditches all the time. It can allow them to take that money and put it into what we should be putting it into, fixing potholes and fixing roads and things like that. So I think one of the unintended consequences was some of these road ditches stopped being mowed, and pretty soon we have the highway department out there in the fall mowing these road ditches at an extra cost or money coming out of their budget in order to make sure that we don't have a snow fence type or a catching of the snow problem on our highways. So 2 years ago we put a moratorium on to come up until April of this year, and so now we just passed the moratorium out of the Senate this week, and we're hoping that the House will get it passed out in the next week or so. And we'll put the moratorium on for another year. I think that in speaking with the Commissioner of Agriculture, I think he's hopeful that we can come together with something with the commodity groups and the other ag groups along with the environmentalists that is acceptable. And I think there's some options there. Probably everybody's not going to be happy with what they come up with, but if the majority of the people feel it's something they can work with, I think we can come up with a pretty good bill so that it allows the farmers to harvest this hay, and it does not require the federal or the state government to harvest and chop all this stuff up toward the end of the season and not have it be used. It's, like I say, a cost to the state to be mowing these ditches in order to keep the snow off the roads and stuff. So all in all, I think there's a good chance that we'll come up with a bill within the next year, or come up with some agreements within the next year that'll make this work. And it really kind of turned out to be something that I don't think the Department of Transportation realized what they were stepping into, because somebody has to enforce this. And I guess I'd rather have somebody going out to an accident scene and possibly helping save a life or something like that, highway patrolman, than driving around issuing tickets for people improperly mowing road ditches and stuff, or mowing them before time or this or that. So I think we have to look at this with some common sense and make sure whatever we come up with works for pretty much everybody, and make sure that we use our resources the best we can. That's what we're going to strive to do within the next year.